Hey guys, before we start the episode, I just wanted to thank you all for the incredible reception. I have just been thrilled reading your comments, and I really hope I can deliver on Planet Botanic because you guys have just been awesome. Thank you so much. Just wanted to go over a few comments before we start. Zach Lamp would love to see a path with steps going up to that platform, like smaller adventurous path between steep rocks, and of course the rope hoist platform. Yeah, you're on the right page here. There's definitely going to be a lot of that sort of detail and kind of logic. Another person who talked to me, it was Rudy from Rudy Renkamel on YouTube, and he said to use some of the heat units or something like that, and it can create a little bit more of a humid look. And so we're gonna try that, not in this episode, but we're gonna try it later. A lot of you have been telling me about the Eden project. I will definitely check that out. If you have any other botanical gardens around you that you like, or little aspects of some, I will definitely take a look at all of them and see if I can kind of bring them together in this. The Celius. I think I actually edited it out of the episode accidentally. The person who makes the aquaterrariums, if you need something to just put on in the background and to do something else, or to just be amazed at how these things come together, his name is Asu, A-S-U. If you just search for that in the search bar, you'll find him pretty easily. And all of his videos are incredible. I would definitely recommend checking it out. All right, let's start the show. Hey there, fellow plant nerds. Welcome back to Planet Botanic. This is episode 2. Here's where we last left off, the aquaterrarium. You can kind of see that it is huge. But we're not going to be working on this today because there are other things to do. Because if I kind of zoom back here and take a look at the map, yeah, there's a lot of blank. Blank's not my friend, and so I feel like we need to really work on structuring down where some of the big central elements of this garden are. We'll take care of the aquaterrarium and the subsequent building that's going to be around it in a later episode. A lot of really great comments and a lot of great suggestions on how to conceal it a little bit better, and also some ideas to theme it and to make it a little bit more dramatic. All right, we have got to talk about inspirations here. Now, you'll usually notice this in a lot of old formal gardens. This is called the reflecting pool. And it is a single plane of water. Doesn't usually have a fountain in it, but some can have a little bit more flair and a little bit of flash to them. But what the reflecting pond is supposed to do, especially if it is so large that it actually envelops a lot of the land, it connects ground to sky. It creates a heavenly plane on the earth. And that's why you typically see a lot of reflecting pools around memorials and stuff like that. It's because it is a symbol of the world beyond ours. And so I definitely wanted to have one for my own project. I wanted to have, so if I look out this way, what I really wanted to do is have it so that when the sun is rising, you look across and it's perfectly in line with the rise of the sun. So I took this concept from the Palace of Versailles in the gardens there. The Palace of Versailles was the residence of King Louis XIV of France. His nickname was the Sun King. Apparently, he chose the sun symbol for himself. Of course he did. And so when he went to design his gardens, the landscape architect involved made sure that there was no obstruction of the sunrise line. So they mowed down all the trees. They had this giant reservoir installed, and it's just a way to connect earth to sky. They are definitely a symbol of wealth, and I think because my personal estate. So if I zoom back a little bit, you can see how much room it takes up. Still not a whole lot. So I think I have a good start. But I am noticing to get the angle of the sun like this, I have screwed up the terrain a little bit. And also, I don't know if I love this. It's kind of boring. It's kind of plain. And if this is in California, and this particular botanical garden is supposed to be stationed, That's a lot of water in a state that is under drought restrictions. So I think we could do better. A bit of a change. You can see I removed the rectangular pool because I really did think that having that much water just exposed like that without any sort of transpiration control or evaporation control is not a smart way to go about it. So I instead went with this very narrow channel, which harkens to another garden inspiration that I have, which is the Getty Museum, the new Getty in Los Angeles. And so I have this big limestone kind of run of this very, very narrow channel that reflects perfectly this elm. And why this elm? Well, we need to have a little bit of a botanical lesson. So this elm, this is an American elm, Ulmus americana, and the striking thing about elms in the North American landscape is that they got ravaged by a disease called Dutch elm disease, which is transmitted by an insect into the tree, and then the tree slowly declines. And so elms used to be a staple in every park, on every boulevard. They used to create beautiful cathedral-like branching over the streets. They were a fast-growing tree. They were, well, I shouldn't say they were. They still are. But they were so decimated from the east to the Midwest and all the way to the west. And basically any place that didn't get too super cold and had access to rail, because that's usually where the bugs spread. And so the elm was pretty much decimated throughout the urban population. And what people found as they looked in stands of dead elms is that there was one or two trees that survived, that didn't only just survive, but they actually thrived. So while the other stands were completely dead, there was this one tree that was doing just fine. And so what researchers did is they genetically cloned that particular tree and those genetics to repopulate elms and create new species, so that they could become strong street trees again and create a healthier culture for the urban population. So the idea here is that this particular elm that I have encapsulated in this sort of stone memorial, is one of those elms that it was standing where others had fallen and were killed. And so the research department here at the Botanical Gardens, they actually grafted the DNA and were able to populate new elms on the campus and then also transfer them out to sale. So that is why this elm has such significance here. And then you combine that with the heavenly plane and the sort of eternal symbolism. It's quite beautiful, I think. And what I think I'm gonna do, I think what the story is gonna be now, here's the lore behind everything, is that this garden used to have a really large pool like this, but due to a new revision and remodel, they decided to go a lot more drought tolerant, and so they limited the channel size down, and then created this. But you, as the patron, cannot get to this tree without getting your feet wet or anything like that. So there's a little bit of a barrier, but you can still kind of feel it. And I based this really modern kind of limestone look off of the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. But here's my issue with the Getty, and I'll show you some pictures too. There's a beautiful modernist garden called the Central Garden. And you work your way down past the river a few times, and then you come down into this big pool where you have this labyrinth of azalea. It's very cool, but it is very disconnected. The gardens in general make you feel like you're not invited to explore them. And that is kind of a central design feature of gardens in general, is that exploration and discovery is almost as important as the material that you're using, as the flowers and the trees and shrubs. So to have a garden that basically tells you to step off I like the materials, I like the design, I like the geometric shapes and everything, but I just don't like the fact that it feels very hands-off and just don't touch me. I'm too important. Don't get your filthy hands on me. But this is what I took away from researching the Getty. There's this beautiful minimalism and reduction. You go from these really big stones and louder falls into these more gravelly kind of round. And what it's supposed to be showing you is the travel of water. I don't know if it's supposed to be in California or if it's just supposed to be the travel of water in general, but it starts from the mountains, and as it goes further and further, the rocks get smaller, and as the aggregate gets broken down more and more. So I wanted to recreate that. I don't exactly know where that's going to go in this particular garden, but I got this idea from watching one of Sylv's videos, and it's pretty convincingly water, even though there's no water in there at all. Okay, here we are, and the design is maturing a little bit more. You can still see the beautiful vista that you get with the elm and the sun rising over the reflecting pond. This will all get filled in, don't worry about that. But you can kind of see something forming here. And this is the other side of the garden that I wanted to kind of show here. So you've got the water, you've got a limited amount of water, and you can see that it's very, very shallow. There are no railings, so that's why the water is so shallow, because you can barely drown in that. Might actually have to make it a little shallower. But what you are encouraged to do as a patron is to walk through here, and you notice that there is repetition. There's repetition of these forms here, and there's repetition of the beds. Very simple, structured sort of color palette. And then you have the repetition of these sculptures, which whoever designed these in Planet Zoo deserves a freaking raise, because these are gorgeous. They are so freaking cool. Anyway, they are going to be going on the banks of the river here, towards the oasis, through the desert, and that is a art installation in motion called Migration. And so I wanted it to look like, as part of this master planned landscape architect fever dream, which is this, because it's not very personable. It's very repetitious. It's very grand. I wanted it to feel like this was a sort of $1 million landscape architect that came in and gave their super stylistic approach. And so what you're going to have on both sides is all these all these lions migrating towards the oasis through all these desert plants here. And it's the same kind of band of orange, purple, and then a little bit of orange to reference in the aloe. Simple forms with the barrel cactus, and very, very predictable path. So it comes around, it swoops and swoops and swoops and swoops. And personally, I don't really like this in gardens myself, but I can understand the idea here because, by eliminating the grass, a huge patch of grass, and by eliminating a large reservoir of water, you're doing a lot to minimize your impact on the drought crisis in California. The other thing you're encouraged to do is you're encouraged to step off the path, and you're encouraged to come up and walk around these sculptures. Don't climb on them, because then it's a freaking lawsuit waiting to happen. But you're allowed to step around and touch and feel, touch the water, sit on the edge. You're not restricted from the design of the garden. The design of the garden is meant to let you in and let you explore. Here we are a little closer, and you can see that the repetition is not a bug, it is a feature. You can see that it is basically the same in there's little tiny changes, like this one has one flower that's blooming, this one has 3 flowers that are blooming, this one has no flowers that are blooming, but it's all the same plant material across the board. Same colors, same dots, all the way across. This is what landscape architects love. They love their structure. And what they also love is to follow the concepts of design. And so what this garden does is it invites you to come down to the water side. And then what it shows is that, oh, there's something down there. Well, let me see what's over there. And so you work your way over, closer and closer, and then you're greeted by this really nice desert type garden. Got a few cactuses and candelabra tree. It's one of my favorite things that they've added to this game. It's absolutely beautiful. Look at that thing. you're just encouraged, you're always led to something. And so the direction of the lion sculptures and the repetition of the topiaries all lead you down that line. Something I forgot to mention in the last update is that I had, instead of having one single channel that comes all the way to the front here, I wanted it to flare out because it offers some really incredible force perspective. So it really feels like the line, the horizon line, is zeroing in on that tree, and it just makes it a little bit more dramatic. So I think I love what I see, so I'm just going to replicate it on the other side, and that shouldn't take too long, right? Oh my, that took a lot longer than I thought it would. Who would have thought that mirroring the other side would be so difficult? But it proved its challenges. But my goodness, look at the... Okay, so just look at that symmetry. Oh. Another key aspect of the design is that because it is so strict, it doesn't allow you to cross this plane of water ever, because you don't want the view to ever be obstructed. And unless you're a child who just happens to be curious and jumps in, most adults are not going to be finding their way crossing across the water. I mean, humans do weird things, but the design is meant for you to be separated from the other side. And so what I didn't want to happen is I didn't want there to be something interesting on one side that there isn't on the other side. So the repetition, even though the symmetry is a little stoic, it's that way for a reason, so that you're not encouraged to break the line itself. What you're encouraged to do is go down, and then you can meet up as you get back to this area here. I also added a few trash cans and stuff like that because why not? People bring food and drink into gardens all the time, so there should be a place to dispose of it. And I wouldn't want Starbucks cups kind of getting stuck in my barrel cactus there. So you've got the two reward gardens down here for walking that whole kind of line. And the color palette is pretty strict because I want it to feel stable. And the way that you do that in design is you create very strict color palettes. And so in here, even though there's new textures and material and a lot more drama and interest, you still have the purple, you still have the orange, and you still have the sand as your mulch. So everything feels connected, everything feels nice and balanced. This is another trick of the trade when it comes to really classic sort of garden design. So you end up having a staircase that just goes right into the pool. I'm sure it has some sort of significance or symbolism, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. Maybe one of you guys can tell me in the comments. Oh my, and here we are. We're at the end of this episode, at least. My goodness. It's a little bigger than the aquaterrarium, I would say. Look how big this thing is. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. So I just want to show you the view that you get as you're kind of walking down here. So, I mean, you could theoretically just walk yourself right down into that pool right there. Just stick your feet in there or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't really want to. But, you know, people are going to be people. And so the big difference here is that I have softened the lines as the pool widens out. You see that there is this new introduction of design. They are these frankincense trees, which I absolutely love. I don't know if they would grow in a Southern California environment, but they look like a lot of other trees that grow there. So we're just calling them that. And a very, very strict. So if the design, or if the color palette was strict on this side, which is greens, silvers, blues, and oranges, this first one is very strict because it is only greens and some sagey, whatever this bush is, I forget. And so what that's meant to do is supposed to frame this view, but then it's also supposed to act as a transition and also a way to draw you into the color into this part of the botanical garden. Because what I want you to do is I want you to get off the portico of the estate. I want you to come down, I want you to visit the water, and I want you to pretty much skim past this. It's still pretty, but it's just not, it's not leading you to anywhere. So I want you to draw, I want you to be curious, I want you to be excited, I want you to look at these statues, and I want you to keep going this way. The other big addition is this area here, and really it is, again, it is not meant to, even though the path draws you back here, it's your choice if you're going to divert from the path and come up to this area and take in the sights here. These steps are here for you to sit and to just enjoy, check out the vistas, read a book, sit in the shade or something like that. You can come all the way over here and sit in the shade. You can do a lot of things. You can just sit and be contemplative, looking at this tree. And that's what the rocks and everything is supposed to do too. This is supposed to look a little bit like a sacred ground. It's very easy to maintain, which is good for the garden. It takes up a lot of space. It's not super difficult to manage or anything like that. And yeah, the main paths divert to this road, this asphalt road, which is a really cool aspect of the Huntington Library. They actually have an asphalt road that kind of runs through, and sometimes they run tours and stuff like that. So I wanted to include that because it's a nice little throughfare to get to the other gardens. Especially on a sprawling campus like this, you would definitely need something that you can say, oh, yeah, I should follow this, and this will probably get me back to the entrance. But this region is really meant for you, as the patron, to just wander off the path and enjoy the incredible history of this tree. You can read a plaque or something like that. I might have a history plaque or something like that. But yeah, that's really all it's meant to be, is just another place to sit and to enjoy. You're really encouraged to use this campus the way that you want to as somebody visiting this botanical garden. Sometimes the fun parts of going to public places is people watching too. And so this is a great place to just watch people be people, which can sometimes be as wild as the plants and the animals themselves. So that about does it. I'm going to put on the rain just because this game is gorgeous, and yeah, let's get that view nice and dramatic. Oh, this game is so good looking. Here, I'm going to take off the interface just for you. Look at that. Oh. I haven't seen a prettier game in a long time, especially a simulation game. This is just magnificent. Oh my gosh. If you liked what you saw today, you know what to do. Next episode, I don't really know where we're gonna go. I am very happy I got a lot of the structure done, but I don't necessarily want to keep working on this. I want to get on to something else. But that has been a bad habit for me, to start new areas that I haven't finished. So you're just gonna have to wait and see, because I don't know what's gonna happen next. If you have any ideas for me of botanical gardens you visited, or even zoos, because zoos have botanical gardens in them, or really cool greenhouses, or anything other that you think I would enjoy, definitely give me a link in the comments. I look at everything you guys write, so yeah, if you're a nerd like me, if you're a plant nerd like me, I would love to check it out. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.